Hello and welcome to According to John. Today we have a special episode where we are streaming Pastor Duke.
700 miles away from seven. I still love you, brother.
Brother, I love you too, man. And I'm so glad that we could get in on here and we're going to do this podcast. And today's podcast is on local farmers. And so we're gonna just talk through the importance of that. And I thought, man, what a better person than Pastor Duke to talk about farming.
Last year, I was a local farmer. I didn't believe in going to the grocery store for fat.
So here's the thing. One of my biggest struggles right now is most farmers are factories, and we need farmers.
The big prophetic picture set everything: centralization of education, centralization of med, and one that's really scary is central farming, because the food we're getting ain't what it used to be.
There's nothing in it.
Yeah, the soil has been depleted because of chemical farming. They put the chemicals in, the plants suck them right out, and they're just deficient. I've heard stories about what was in a pound of spinach 30, 40 years ago, grown naturally, organically, versus what's in a pound of spinach you get at a store today. But, it's all part of the big picture of Satan dumbing down the world, Satan just supplementing our food supply with stuff that's not real. So this is close to my heart, brother.
Right. And that's if people would read, and it might freak them out a little bit, but if they would read the ingredients on the back of a box or a package or anything, man, you would find, because most of the preservatives that they put in that is actually poison.
Yeah. And they say FDA approved of X amount of whatever it is. These names have 17 letters and 9 syllables just to confuse us. But every one of them are poison. Every one of them are toxic. But, only if you ingest little bits, a little bit here, a little bit there. Everything is a carcinogen today. And, yeah, so it's all part of the big picture, and I fought it for the last 40 years. Not just because of the chemicals, because I grew up on a little small farm, and what do you call it? Truck farm. We had 4-acre garden, and
Right.
used to bring in about $3,000 a year back in the '60s. That was a lot of money.
It really was.
Little Duke had a pocket full of money. But there was significant groceries on our table, and it was all natural and organic. We didn't know any better.
Right.
And when I got married, we started with a little table garden just in the summer, to a few cucumbers and that. And then we grew too many, and then we began to preserve them. And I figured out you can grow an awful lot on about a quarter acre. I had about a half-acre garden, but I could grow plenty of food to feed me and some friends. And now in my move, I've got to kind of rebuild my homestead. But there's a biblical foundation for it. And you want me to jump into some of those scriptures?
Yeah, please do that. Because here's the thing, like for me, I have a local farmer that I get my milk from, and it's Meadowbrook Farms. And so if you are in the Albany region, Albany Capital District, man, you need to look up Meadowbrook Farms. And man, it's fantastic. Family has great service, and they have fresh butter, right? I mean, dude, homemade churned butter, and they have the cream line. I get the cream line milk because the cream line milk still has the cream on top. Like you got to shake it up and get the cream down. So it's man, it's just so much more wholesome than what you can buy in the store.
Yeah, see, what you're saying is God does things better than man. Is that what you're trying to say, Pastor John?
Absolutely.
Well, to pull this into the biblical context in the Olivet Discourse, Jesus was giving the signs of the times. Now, this is indirect, this is not
Right.
direct, but it's direct in reference to our health. We know Jesus said there'll be the signs of his coming. These would be general signs, would be famine, earthquake, and pestilence. The word pestilence is a Greek word. I'm just losing it now. It'll come to me tonight at 2 a.m. and I'll call you. But it means the primary meaning is malignancies. And there's
Right.
just an incredible epidemic of cancer. We've just kind of grown to live with it. And we know what it is that causes it. It is the toxins that we eat, it's the toxins that we drink, and just this, excuse me, crappy food supply that we have in these latter days. And so we've been watching this encroachment for years and years, and people are finding out in mass that you can grow food. And I had a lot of fun doing it all those years. But, now I got to start out all over again, Pastor John.
Well, so what is the deal with buying dead seeds? Like,
Okay, here's what it is. Seeds up until very last maybe 10, 15, 20 years were just seeds, the way God made them genetically, the way they always were. And now they have a new name for the old-fashioned seed, heirloom, the one
heirloom.
man hasn't messed with that. And then along the way, they did some genetic hybridization, which is not genetically modified. So hybrids are fine, I believe, for our health. And the hybrid plants that I grow and veggies are fantastic. But here's the key: they're sterile. The seeds are sterile, which makes you dependent upon the seed bank. And
Right.
so subtly, they're giving you something that still has some food value, and I don't believe is dangerous to our health. But they've made us dependent upon the seed bank. Centralization of power, whether it's banking, education, agriculture, centralization of agriculture. So, when in the early days of my gardening, I would save my seeds, and you learn how to do that. You learn not to plant squash next to your pumpkins, or you wind up with great pumpkins that year and great squash, but the next year when you take those seeds, you get some weird things. So there's just laws that govern how you develop your seed bank with the heirlooms. Now with the hybrids, they're just flat out sterile. So you are dependent upon the seed companies to plant your gardens. You can't go back. So
Yeah. So what you're really saying is once you grow it that with the hybrid, once you grow it that year, that's it. You can't harvest the seeds from the plants.
no, you're done. It's one and done.
And
Again,
before you used to harvest the seeds from your
yeah,
harvest
yeah,
and replant them the next year.
right.
Can't do it anymore.
For 6,000 years, that's how we did it. But now man's getting really smart, and it's really not man, it's Satan, to
Mhm.
gain control, to control the food.
Right.
And as you have the biblical worldview of prophecy, you get to Revelation chapter 13. There's control of everything. Well, if you can grow your own food, which is not all that difficult to do, then they can't be in control. So they've gone along with the hybridization of seeds, and just have to get fresh seed every year from the seed bank, and that's been bought out primarily on the European side of things. Bayer, I forget how you spell that. I guess Beher, something like that, or
Yeah.
Beyer. But on the North American side, I think it's Monsanto, and they basically own the world seed bank. Now, there's still heirlooms out there, but you almost have to go to farm stores or have some hippie preacher friends like me to hook up with heirloom seeds. And so I've got to find some friends down here in this neck of the woods to start building my heirloom seed bank again. It's a different place, different soil.
How long do heirloom seeds usually last?
Oh, on the right conditions, they can last for years. I would normally take my seeds, get them nice and dry, put them in dry envelopes, put them in the freezer. They'll keep 15, 20 years in the freezer. They've
So
actually found seeds in the wheat and oat seeds in the pyramids that were 4,000 years old and they were still viable.
Right.
So the viability depends on the conditions that you keep them in. If you keep them dry and cold, not necessarily in the freezer, but
Yeah, like
that's
I have a cool basement. So if I were to get some and put them in the basement, they would be fine.
probably, but only a year or so because there's a dampness in the basement for most part. If you have heat down there, it kind of keeps the moisture level down. But a lot of basements are not good for seed to remain seeds to keep them viable for a longer period of time. It's best to kind of really, if you're trying to build a seed bank, you can do that by really making sure your seeds are dry, keep them in a cool, dry place. They'll keep for many years. There's actually seed banks that you can order on for about 50, $60, and they'll give you these really packaged well and just pop it in your freezer and you got a seed bank that'll plant a garden. I probably had it for 15 years, and I'd pull those seeds out just to see if they were still viable, and they were
Wow.
after like 15 years. But I'm back to ground zero again. I'm dependent upon the system. But I want to go in just a little bit different. The hybridization, the seeds are sterile, but the food is not genetically modified. Then you get
Okay.
into the bad stuff, genetically modified. And the motivation to do all of that was to make it so that these hybrid wheat, oats, barley,
How about
soybeans
what
primarily,
seedless grapes, seedless watermelons?
those are not genetically modified. Those are just hybridization.
Okay.
They're not that dangerous to eat, but every year you got to
Maybe
go to
buy it.
them to
Right, right.
get your seed, and they know what you got, and that's kind of the key for security for them to know who we are, what we got on everything. So a lot of the hippie farmer preachers, we want to stay with heirloom as much as possible,
Right.
do our own seeds. But the motivation for the genetically modified was basically to feed the world because the world population is soaring because of abundance of food, because of availability of fossil fuels. And we peaked out just about, I think that this year at 8 billion people. Now, if we used healthy food growth, people grew some of their own food, uh, we could feed 20 billion people. But
Right.
with
Well,
this,
the problem was they created a system where people don't even know how to farm. They don't know how to plant.
yeah,
They don't know how to grow anything. They don't like we really, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but we have really created an ignorant society.
yeah, it's a dumbed down
Yes.
society in all of the basics.
Yes.
How to do the basic things, how to grow food, how to preserve food. Our grandparents, this is just the way they lived. You harvested, you preserved. That's all through August, September, even into October, you were doing your preservation. And then you didn't need much to go to the store. You just go to the root cellar
Mm.
or your stored canned goods thing that you did, and you just ate what you had. And it's a wonderful way. I've been doing it for the last 20 years.
Right.
You eat what you grow, and man, there's all kinds of neat products that you can get out of your own things that you grow. I
Oh,
can
and then
go.
you do the canning and you like you can have a 2 years worth of food on your shelf at all times.
Oh yeah, most anything can will go 2 years, and things that are higher acidic like tomatoes, they'll keep 3, even 4 years. But the things that are less acidic, like beans, man, I try to rotate them every year. But there's so much available out there on YouTube.
Mhm.
People who live a homestead lifestyle just want to share the knowledge. And
Right.
I haven't had a TV on in my house in 2 years, but I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to pressure can meat. Oh my goodness, canned meat will change your life,
Right.
and it's a fun way to live. And then the grandkids get involved, and they just think it's the coolest thing in the world. But I do want to go back to the GMOs. I think it was maybe about 25, 30 years ago they began to experiment. It was all about Roundup. The Roundup kills the weeds, and it really does work. I just was by a field in Ohio on my recent preaching trip, and I'm telling you, it was a 50-acre field of corn that had just been harvested. And Pastor John, there wasn't a weed in the
Right.
field.
Isn't
They
that
used
crazy?
My farmer friends tell me they used to plant the corn about 6 to 8 inches apart. Now they plant it 3 inches apart. I mean, those corn stalks are one upon the other, and they're producing two big full heads of corn. They're telling me that, back before Roundup and chemical farming, before GMOs, if they could get 60 to 80 bushels of corn per acre, that was good. And
Mhm.
now they're getting 180 to 200, sometimes even 220 off that same acre. But as my farmer said, I'm killing the people I'm feeding, not
Well,
quickly, but slowly, little by
yeah.
little, I'm killing them.
So that Roundup, and the Roundup is known to cause cancer. The
Oh,
Roundup is known to cause autoimmunes. The Roundup is known to cause, I mean, a multitude of health issues.
yeah. Well, look at the autoimmune disease that we have today, myofibroalgia, I think it probably didn't. My
Fibromyalgia. Yeah.
fibromyalgia, and just so many neurological conditions today.
Well, and everybody's allergic to peanuts.
Yeah, yeah,
When did that ever happen?
yeah. And then there's just massive ear infections
Mhm.
that we used to have back in the day. Asthma used to be like one kid out of 50 would have asthma. Today it's like one in three. And the thing that's really sad is autism. You
One in
know,
800.
yeah, and now I think with boys it's like one in 23.
Mhm.
It's just it's really sad
Right.
what we've
But
allowed.
that is more obviously that's food as well. That's the chemicals we're ingesting. But dude, that's the vaccines that they're giving
Yeah,
them, the
yeah,
shots. Because when you and I got vaccinated, what was it,
three or
3 or 6?
four, three
Yeah,
or four,
whatever it was.
3 or 4.
Today they're almost 200 or 300. It's
A year, couple years ago, it was 73. It totally shocked me in New York. Now they've added a bunch to that.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
and
Yeah,
what's in these
it's well
vaccines?
over. I know it's well over 100.
And what's in these vaccines? These heavy metals, and I mean, God just never intended uh, for those kinds of poisons, toxins to
Right.
be in our body,
Right.
and the accumulation of them is just reaping havoc on the health of our children. Obesity is just rampant in the diet. It's just a combination of the vaccines, the tainted food supply,
The
even
lack of
drinking.
vitamins, the lack of minerals, the lack of
Right? Yeah.
nutrients, the lack of when you take away the nutrients and you add in chemicals and then you take away
And you,
healthy and then you're adding in vaccines, you're adding in chemicals, you're adding in everything else, but you're taking out what we need to fight it. We're
yeah.
done.
I think of the scripture in Colossians which says, "Put on therefore uh, the things of the spirit, and put off the hidden works of darkness." So the put on, put off, and that same principle is there for our diet. The things that God intended for us to have that we don't get, and the things He never intended for us to have that they just
Right.
pummel us with it. And another thing I'd like to throw into this. I look up into the sky quite regularly on my morning walks, and I remember the days when we didn't have the chemicals in the sky. What do you
Right.
call them?
Chemtrails.
Chemtrails. Yeah, yeah. I remember as a child, never saw anything like that, and
Right.
now just and I seems I try to do research on it, and I hear horrific things from certain sites, and then I hear from the government sites, "Oh, it's no problem. It's for your own good. It's healthy. Don't worry about it." Well, I trust the government like I trust a screen door in a submarine, you know?
That's exactly right. You people well, here's what's crazy is there is people are still gonna vote for Biden if he runs again.
Well, I guess maybe America's going to reap what we've sown. Maybe we deserve him. We've killed 64 million babies, and then we allow the people who should be executed for
Right.
horrific crimes. We save those who should die, and we kill those who should live. And we don't know where to go potty. We've rejected the word of God. We mock his morality. We criminalize those that hold to Judeo-Christian morality. So I think we're bottoming out. But this whole food supply, I've been studying it for really the past 40 years and doing the best I can to live by it and live as healthy as we can.
So
So
one of the things I'm looking to do is get rid of sugar. I'm going to stop eating sugar.
Yeah, I'm addicted. I mean, I don't eat like I did, but I still like to
They say
drink.
it's worse than heroin, man.
Yeah, I agree with it. You know, you know, as gospel came into my life, you know, the alcohol, man, has gone. Tobacco, cigarettes, that went pretty. You know, I really don't think I had an addiction on that. I just smoked because I was high and
Right.
drinking, and but that was all gone. The drugs were gone. But
Sugar, baby, it's here
man,
forever.
man, it tastes so good. I
I
like how it
know.
makes my body feel. And there
And I
again, you know, we have cut back. Oh my goodness, I've cut. Well, I'm type 2 diabetic, so I've pretty much been forced to, but I've probably cut back 85% of the sugar that I once ingested. But that was, I mean, anybody check how much sugar is in a bottle of, we say pop, now I'm in the South. I don't know what they call it here, but
it's Coke.
soda,
They just reference it as Coke in the South.
Coke in the South.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't drink it.
They're like, "Hey,
So
you want a Coke? Yeah, what kind?
yeah, okay. I'll have a or I'll have a root
Sprite,
beer.
yeah, whatever."
Okay.
Yeah, it's all Coke.
Yeah, but I think you're hitting the big issues. Way too much sugar,
Mhm.
and then processed foods. You know, you go into like a 7-Eleven store or these little gas stations. They got a million things, and there's nothing in there. Then often that you can that's really healthy, except you can maybe get a bag of cashews
Yeah,
or
or a
maybe
Slim Jim, but even that's processed to the max, man.
yeah. At least it's not sugar,
That's
but
my point. That's not sugar.
yeah,
It's
and
not
maybe a
gonna
banana or an apple. That's you know that's about the only thing I ever buy in those stores.
but even the fruit today is horrible because they are putting like, for example, you get an apple in the middle of winter. Okay,
Yeah.
that's been stored in a cooler that was sealed with petroleum products.
Yes, and very recently, I'm beginning to learn of new spraying for preservation of fruits and vegetables, recommended and discovered under the tutelage of Bill Gates. How about that? You know, the guy that buys the American farmland and shuts down the
Shuts them
farm.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy, and they're just new toxins being introduced in the what is it? FDA, Federal Department of Agriculture, and CDC. They approve
Of everything.
of everything
Right.
unnatural,
Right.
and most people don't understand it. But they're making it illegal to use natural remedies.
Right.
You know, I've been really getting into that the last few years.
They
The
want to
natural
outlaw
remedies,
vitamins.
yeah, because they're not the chemical vitamins
Right.
that they want to give us.
Well, I say outlaw. Let me make a correction. They want to make it prescription. Like you have to have a prescription to get it.
Yeah, they want to make
That's what they
money
want.
on it. They can't make money under natural remedies. I
But
remember
you know as well as I do, if they get a hold of it, they're not only going to make money, that they're gonna neutralize it. They'll
yeah,
sterilize the vitamins.
yeah, yeah, they Steppenwolf, the prophet Steppenwolf, 1971, saying there's a monster on the loose and has our heads into a noose, and he
Uh,
stands there watching. And you know, it's I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of getting numbed out by it all. I've learned so much about proper dietary life, good food, natural foods, what needs to be in the soil, studying the soil, building the soil, growing the vegetables, preserving them, and it's delicious. It's
mhm.
fantastic. And then I'm kind of disappointed because I'm starting out all over again. But going back to the title of our topic today, going back to the local farm. And so I have found a farm here, and we go there regularly and just kind of buy what I used to grow. And they're doing it pretty much organic, best they
Right.
can.
Right.
And that's a
Well,
whole other can of worms. What is and what isn't organic? Because
well, here's the thing: if you don't get it local, it's not organic. I don't care what the shelf says, dude. It's not organic. If it is lasting on the shelf, it's got chemicals on it. If it's come through a factory, it has chemicals on it. For example, if they let chickens outside for 5 minutes a day,
Yeah, they're
Well,
organic now.
they call them organic
If they ate a bug or a
or
blade of
free
grass,
range.
yeah.
Yeah, they call them free range, and it's like, okay, you open one door, and then they run out the door, they run through the gated area and come back in another door, and okay, we can call it free range.
If they're free range on an alfalfa field, now that's free range. But when
That's
they're in
free
a
range.
cooped up area where it's just they're walking on dirt,
Mhm.
and it's not truly free range, but people are willing to pay a lot more money
And
for
they're not
something.
getting anything any better.
Yeah, that's and I know so much about this topic that I hate to tell people that, but I would be very cautious about paying a double price for something that is called organic, and until you really know what that is,
Well,
because
that's like if you buy tilapia. Tilapia is one of the most disgusting raised fish that you
yeah,
can buy.
I
It
found
is
out how it's
horrible.
raised and where it comes from and what's really in it. I will starve before I ever eat tilapia again,
Yeah,
unless I
because
could grow my own. You can get a pond and certain things and grow your own. Yeah, that's possible.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. People don't research it, but tilapia is one of the nastiest fish you can eat.
Yeah, and it tasted so good as I remember, but I haven't had it in 15 years.
Right.
Have plans to never taste it again. You gotta be careful where your salmon comes from.
I was gonna say salmon's the same way.
Yeah, you gotta be on top of it. Wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. But no matter how hard you try, you still are not going to really beat this thing totally.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. People have gotten so accustomed to, I mean, if you buy a package of food and it sits on your shelf for 2 years in a plastic bag and it's still good, come on, man. Right? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
at some
I think
point,
a Hostess Twinkie has a shelf life of about a year.
if not more, right? And
Yeah,
at some
yeah.
point, I mean, I looked at a cereal box, the
Oh,
expiration date. I haven't had cereal in like a year. The other night, I said,
yeah,
"Hey, let me get a bowl of cereal just for why not?" I look at it. The expiration date is like is February or March of no, December of 2024.
yeah, yeah. It ain't good, Johnny.
It can't.
Now here's some practical things to give to especially the young mothers that are really concerned about the nutrition of their children. I have three little grandkids here, and their mama is really on top of this, and but she knows the questions to ask. She doesn't just throw money at things because they stamp it organic. But here's what I counsel young couples that I'm the old hippie guy that a lot of people call me
Right,
about
right.
this. So thanks for choosing me, Pastor John. But the thing is,
Well,
nobody can do everything.
right.
So what you do is you get started. You grow one thing and then add to it, and then learn to grow it in abundance, learn to preserve it, and you just add things, add things, add things. But I didn't have the land to grow a pig, or I did raise goats, had my own milk, made my own cheese, made my own yogurt one year. It's really not hard to do,
Right. It's really not.
but you got if you're going to milk a goat, you got to milk it twice a day, 7 days a week. And with my traveling schedule as a preacher, once I went on the road, I had to find new homes for my beautiful goats. I got very emotionally attached. And I remember, oh, this might be rated R, but I remember milking them. They had the babies, and we let the babies go a couple of days for the colostrum and took the babies away and bottle fed the babies. So fun. Then you teach them to be bottle fed. The babies, that's a life and death situation because they don't want it, and you got to hold them tight, get that milk bottle in their mouth. They're choking and they're fighting you. They think that you're going to kill them. And then, they get exhausted, and you just got to stop and go back about an hour or later, try all over again. But there's that magic moment when they get it, and they got that stuff dribbling down their nose and they're choking. And all of a sudden they must taste it and they swallow. And it's like, man, that's good. And all of a sudden that fighting, it's just like, they get it.
They're
And
on
then
it.
at that
Yeah.
moment, you're the mama.
Yeah,
They love you. It's just an amazing thing that, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Man,
yeah.
the shepherds know all about this stuff. That's one of the greatest magic moments ever had on the homestead is getting a baby goat or lamb where they become bottle babies. Now the fun part, now the mothers need to be milked twice a day. And I remember going out, getting the goat up into stanchion. She's ready to be milked. You could tell. And I'd never done it before. I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos and it's game on. And I'm looking both ways. This almost feels like, I'm being immoral, reach down there and grab hold. Lord, forgive me.
Look, I'm giving you a point for
I
immoral.
get a point for being inappropriate. But this is the way God set it up, bro. And a farmer would say, "You don't know this?" And so there has to be that time, I lost my milking virginity. I had
Right.
to grab hold and get that jar up underneath. Too much information, but our people need to hear this, Pastor John.
Right. It's worth doing.
Every sip of milk they've ever had came through this process, And grab hold, ask the Lord forgive me, and you got to squeeze hard, you got to squeeze right, and all of a sudden you get it, and squish, 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 squish. I can milk a goat in 3 minutes, baby. And you go away with that quart and a half of excellent milk, 8% butter fat, man. And goat's milk is naturally homogenized.
Right.
And so that was the greatest year of my life when I was milking, making cheese. And what you do to make that natural cheese? You heat it up to 180 degrees and add fresh lemon juice. That's all it takes.
Right.
And that milk curdles. You pour it through the cheesecloth. You get your own natural cheese. You can add so many things to that. Nuts and brown sugar, of course. That's not good, but it tastes great. And roll it in nuts, and you have your own little cheese spread.
There you go.
Or the Bible talks about curds and honey. How
Yeah.
about that? And I had my own beehive. Curds and honey will change your life. But the key is this: get what you can do. If you don't have a lot of space, raise small animals, rabbits, chickens.
Right.
Turkeys take a little bit more space, and they're very expensive. You will never be able to grow turkeys like you can buy them. It's very expensive because they get really big and takes a long time. But grow your own, and then hook up with a half a dozen homestead families and grow what you can.
Right. Well, so to give everyone to kind of an understanding, when you buy milk. So I had a friend of mine, they were giving their 8-9-year-old daughter milk, right? They go down to the store and buy it. And next thing you know, dude, she's
full of growth hormones, which ain't good.
So what do you think she started growing?
Yeah. She became a woman at about age 9, 10.
9, exactly. And so mama kind of freaked out and took her off the milk, and then it stopped. The growth stopped. So
that's how real it is.
That's how real it is. Exactly. Yeah. And that's my point. That's why, I use Meadowbrook Farms, and I'm saying that because in the capital region of Albany, New York, Meadowbrook Farms, they sell clean meat. They sell fresh eggs. They sell milk. They sell fresh butter. They sell homemade ice cream. Like they sell, the stuff that is not been put through the factory, because I don't know if people realize that when chickens, they wash in Clorox.
Yeah, if you saw the factories, the food factories,
they use ammonia. They use ammonia.
It's just sad.
It's horrible.
It's funny. People will come out and see me. I've had a lot of homeschool mothers and homeschool groups come to my little homestead and let me teach them a lot. We would, sometimes they wanted to see how to put down a chicken,
Right.
I mean, I could do it in my sleep. I've done hundreds of them over the years, and I don't like to kill animals, but it's all part of the process. And they would see it, and people would say, "Oh, that's terrible."
Yeah.
And yet what I'm doing is healthy. And I'm taking,
and the government doesn't want you to do it because it's healthy.
Yeah, and they can't control it.
Right.
But in Sweden, they do control. If you get a dozen fertile eggs and have chickens, they know how many chickens you get, how many eggs you get, and they tax you accordingly. If you have a pig and you a little homestead thing, and you got a pig that's going to deliver, they're going to come out, they're going to send the county agent out, count how many pigs you've got. And because it's not fair that you would do all that work and have all that extra meat, it's not fair to everybody else. Come back down. Who do you think you are? Equality, equality, equality. It's like, well, wait a minute. If I'm going to do the work, I want to have the benefit.
Right.
And so, I mean, we're just insanity and madness is governing the Department of Agriculture. It's governing our food supply. It's governing everything. And so,
Well, and when it's not governing, it's poisoning and then governing.
yeah,
So it's still the same.
I'd like to give our listeners just a couple thoughts. I put in 10 raspberry plants a few years ago. It cost me about, it was nothing because I had a friend, Fern Trowbridge, gave them to me, and I planted them, and about half of them died. But the next year, the 5 that lived multiplied. And then I would dig up the babies each year. And over a period of about 4 or 5 years, I had a significant raspberry crop. I had 250 quarts of raspberries,
Wow.
$10, $12 a quart. I'm talking about $2,500 value in raspberries. They have like no shelf life. I mean, you pick them today, they might keep overnight in your refrigerator, but they have no
Right.
shelf life at all.
You got to can them
They're one of the or freeze them,
or freeze
but
them.
they're or freeze or dehydrate them. Any way. There's lots of different ways to preserve things, but the reality is you can pick have a crop that you're really good at, or say 4 apple trees instead of one, and you have a crop of apples. Then you trade with people. I did not have room for pork and beef, but our friend Andrew Vallis, he raised that for me. Then I would trade him each year, maybe 25 quarts of $250 worth of raspberries for $250 worth of meat.
Right.
And I would trade rabbits and chickens for pork and beef.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't know if people realize you can raise rabbits really good eating. They clean super easy. I mean, you just
Yeah.
grab them by the nape of the neck, pull their fur off their body, and you're
I
pretty
could
much,
put down a rabbit in 2 minutes.
yeah,
And if you should study this out, it's very motivational. People say, I couldn't eat a bunny rabbit. Like, stop it. It's meat.
meat.
Stop all the Hollywood stuff that the devil taught you.
But
God,
that's how they know they can feed them poison, because people were like, I can't do that.
I can't eat Bambi. But rabbit meat, I've done the research. Rabbit meat is the healthiest meat you can eat.
Mhm.
It's the cheapest to grow. It takes 3 pounds of grain or food to produce 1 pound of rabbit. 3.5 pounds to do a chicken. 4 pounds to do a turkey. And then with rabbits, you can just harvest the weeds, the crabgrass, and things around the edges of your property.
Right.
You can feed a rabbit for almost nothing. You can create a little pasture, like a 20 by 20 pasture, and sow in their alfalfa, and you can raise rabbits on that and cost you almost nothing.
Mhm.
And they are the healthiest meat in the world to eat. It's eaten all over the world, pretty much except for America, because we've
Right.
basically been trained by the government to eat pork, beef, and chicken,
Yeah.
and maybe
Listen, I
turkey.
remember going squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, deer hunting. I mean, you know, now they almost make it a sin to have rabbit.
Yeah, you did the scripture. God has created all things to be received with thanksgiving of those that believe and know the truth. The truth will set you free. So people's minds have been warped about, especially meat. We just fall in the line, and we just get our beef, we get our pork, and
And people
what's in that? Oh my goodness!
well, if you buy hamburger, they put pink slime in it.
Oh yeah,
They rinse it in ammonia. They rinse it in
and
Clorox,
it looks so good.
and then they put a red dye on it in the supermarket so that it looks like it's really, really fresh. Whereas when as soon as you open it up and look at the bottom where they didn't put the dye on it, it's a brown.
Yeah, it's the oxidization,
Yeah.
and that's not harmful.
No.
I won't eat that.
I-
It's got a little bit of brown on it. It's not going to hurt you a bit. But the
And that's why
poison they put on it to make it look good is
right.
killing you.
I know,
You're
right?
getting me mad, Pastor John.
We've lost our minds, dude. It's so
Well,
crazy.
Satan is the prince and
Yeah.
power of the air. He's gaining control of the seed bank, control of the meat bank,
Everything.
control of the dairy bank, and the answer to that is the local farm.
It,
Do all you can, and then hook up with your local farmer. Form a team of other families that want to be healthy and grow something and trade. That's the way to do it. And it's a fun lifestyle.
Right. And the reality is if you eat natural, and what I mean by natural is going to your local farmer, your local dairy farmer, your local produce farmer,
There
going to
you
your
go.
local farmer and getting what you need and eating that. I mean, don't go to the grocery store and buy it. Go to your local farmer and get it. And when you do that, you, oh my goodness, you're going to be eating so much healthier. You're going to have less autoimmune problem, less allergies, less everything, and so much healthier.
Yeah.
I,
Oh, what a way to live. Little by little, we escalated. And then,
right.
oh, it was probably 25 years ago. We went from the little summer garden to say, how much of our food can we grow? And it gets really fun. Like, for instance, I planted a peach tree and it took a few years. And then we, maybe about the fourth or fifth year, we got like 4 bushels of peaches.
Well, they
It
say it
was
takes four
awesome.
to five years
Yeah,
for
it takes
that.
a while. Yeah, I got
Yeah,
to learn
yeah,
how to
yeah,
trim the tree. And now you have to spray a little bit, but not like at the orchard, the pick your own orchards. They're spraying 65 to 75 times a year. Now at my little home orchard, I've sprayed once a week with very much less toxic
right.
chemicals, but you have to do some spraying or you'll get nothing. So that's just the reality.
Yeah,
But you understand that, and so my apples were not as beautiful as maybe at the big orchard, the chemical orchard,
yeah, but they
but
were good.
they were good and they were healthy. But you got I got a bushel of peaches. What am I going to do? Well, I dehydrated them. Dried peaches are like candy, baby. They're healthy. We used to give them to the grandkids and called them Jesus candy. You can dry any fruit. So we dried a lot of fruit. Uh, uh, we uh, we canned the
Yeah.
fruit. We made apple butter, peach jam.
Well, so here's the thing, and that's the whole point. You can do all of this and be healthy. It just takes work, and I think that's why we have so many chemicals in our food is because people quit putting the work into it. They either got lazy or they wanted convenience.
Well, I'd like to give a little. Use the word work. I wouldn't use that word in my experience. To me, it was recreation.
Mhm.
I recreated. Is that a word? Recreate.
It is
Recreated.
now. It's in the dictionary.
Yeah, and then I'd have say I was a little bit behind, and Joanne would work with me, and when you can together, I'm telling you,
Right.
it's a great bond with your family to live this natural lifestyle,
And then
can
you get to
together.
eat
Ah,
all that you harvested, and you when you open it up, you're like, "Yeah, I did this."
and then I did lots of jams. I had lots of blueberries, raspberries. I would probably do 100 pints of jam a year. And then I would trade with them when I go out preaching. I might have given you a jar or two of jam over the
Mhm. You
years.
have. You have.
Yeah.
It's been very good.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
enjoyed them. Oh, and the you so when you moved, you gave me a bunch of uh pear sauce, not applesauce, but pear sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just apple butter. It's the same thing, only with
No,
pears.
no, no, no. Yeah, no, no, it wasn't out. Yeah, yeah. No, this was like
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Okay. I do both.
yeah, yeah, this
Yeah.
was like applesauce
Yes.
only with
Applesauce
pears.
only with pears. Yeah. It's great.
Dude, it was so good.
Yeah, and then I put
So
so
good.
little bit of sugar in that,
Yeah, so good.
or I would do it with the healthier alternatives to sugar.
Mhm.
Monk fruit is a great sugar substitute, and or maybe just a little bit of honey
Do
from
you
the
know what I
vine.
started snacking on lately?
Hmm.
Jackfruit.
I I've heard about it, but I'm not there yet. But I'm open, man.
So go online, buy 100% organic dried jackfruit.
Okay, I'm in, bro.
And it's a mix between a pineapple and a sweet potato.
Cool.
it's, it's different,
Yeah, I like
but
different things.
it's good and it's healthy for you, and it has a little sweetness to it because some say it's like a mango in a sweet potato. But either way, it's good. It's got a little sweetness to it, so you're not eating sugar. It's all natural. Yeah, but that's what we got to do. We really got to find natural things
Yeah, it's it's
to
it's
eat.
basically the big four: dairy, fruit,
Right.
um, uh,
And if
vegetables,
you're
and
allergic to the dairy, go
meat.
to a dairy farmer and get their milk straight from him. And what you will find is you really aren't allergic to milk. You're allergic to the hormones and chemicals that they're
Yeah,
putting in the milk on the grocery shelf.
yeah, and all of this combined, all the negative, all the chemicals, all the vaccines, what it's done is it's broken down the natural, godly immune system that God gave us.
Right.
And then it's also been beaten down by the things that we're not getting that He intended for us to get in the fruits
So
and vegetables.
yeah, and that's why we're having gut issues, digestive
There you go.
issues.
Yep.
And why you got to drink apple cider vinegar with the mother in it. It's got to have the mother. It's got to be floaties on the bottom.
Three times a
Um,
day, three
it,
times a day, Pastor John,
it,
straight up.
right. You the man, baby.
Mix it with a glass of water. Used to be Jack Daniels, now it's vinegar.
Now it's vinegar. But we got to do probiotics now. We got to do enzymes, and we got to do apple cider vinegar. We got to do all this stuff to keep our body engaged because we can't process the chemicals in the food that we're eating.
I got off 90% of my diabetes medications, taking 3 sips of apple cider vinegar and 3 cinnamon tablets a day, and then doing intermittent fasting. I'd eat my first meal around 11 a.m. or 12 noon. And then I basically just eat normal. I go really low on the
Right.
sugar, and
Right.
I go a little bit low on the carbs. I switched potatoes for sweet potatoes, or if I'm having potatoes, I'll just have half a portion, and just learn to keep it under control. And God, it's amazing how our bodies respond to nutrition. And God, I only know a
Well,
fraction.
so here's the thing they're doing because they realize the fastest meat that they can grow is human meat.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
seriously, so what they're doing is they're taking little pieces, like dime-sized pieces, if you will, and they're putting them on mesh plates. And they're taking these plates and they're putting them in vats of nutrients.
Yeah.
And they come back the next day and they got a full steak there
The,
in the nutrients because they soak it in nutrients. So they also realize that by killing us, by taking away our nutrients, we won't heal, we won't grow, we won't fight cancer, we won't because we didn't have we didn't have all the disease that we have today 100 years ago, man,
yeah.
50 years ago, even 50 years ago, we didn't have the disease that we have today or the Alzheimer's or you name it. I mean, I'm not Alzheimer's, that too, but autism, Down syndrome, all of that. It's 1 in 800 babies born today are born with Down syndrome.
And what did it used to be? Like 1 in 10,000.
1 in a few thousand.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so common now.
Yeah.
Well, Steppenwolf was right. There's a monster on the loose, and the monster is Satan, and he wants to destroy everything holy. God made our bodies, he in a beautiful immune system, nutritious needs, and He's provided so much of that need in the natural world all around us. And it's just a hoot to discover all this. Man, if I had life to do all over again, I'd just do it the same. I just get started earlier and grow more. But in New York, I grew pretty much everything I could, which is it's amazing what you can grow there. I had my own asparagus, all the perennials, rhubarb,
Yeah, you just don't have
horseradish.
as long of a season. That's all.
Yeah, I could even grow okra and the hot the things that like the hot weather grow well in New York as well. So
Mm.
down here, I just got a double season. So I'll get started and get back little by little. But anyway, man, I love this is my heart. This is what
Right.
I
Right.
do. And I went to a Jesus. Some of my people know I did this Jesus hippie festival this summer to preach. It was awesome. A
Right.
lot of old hippies and a lot of mostly they were young couples, and they found out I was a homesteader. Man, we talked and talked and talked, and people
Because
getting
they're getting
excited.
it. They understand.
Yeah,
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 they understand. You can't just grab a plastic bag of something called food, open it up and eat it because it may not be too good for you.
yeah. It was a fun life, and I do have my local farm down here, and I'm letting them do the labor, but I'm
Right.
still getting the benefit of the healthier foods.
Right.
And I got a nice new chicken house in the back, and maybe put up about two
Time to
dozen.
start feeling it. Get those
Yeah,
grandbabies out of it, though.
yeah, it's their playhouse right now, but the chickens are coming to town. Get my
They-
rabbit, get my little rabbits back in operation and in trading with meeting new people down here that have the homestead life. So I'll be back. I'll be back up and running.
You'll get there. You'll get there. Well, hey, brother, we are out of time. And guys, listen, first off, Duke, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I know it's different than what we normally do, but I just want to raise awareness to people to understand that the food supply is horrific and they need to do something different. So God bless you, man. Thank you.
I've had a lot of my people ask me to do this podcast. I'm glad we could do it with you. Maybe we can put it up on both
Yep.
Pastor Duke and podcast and According to John's show. I miss you, little brother.
Hey, man, I miss you. I hope you're enjoying the South. And brother, thank you for this. And we'll do more. We'll get on this and we'll get more done.
Yeah, and I'll be back in November and back in December. We'll be in the studio together. So in the meantime, we can
Do that.
let Jesus use the technology instead of the devil this time.
There you go. There you go. Well,
Amen.
hey, guys, I hope this has helped you. And if it has, please like, share, subscribe, and follow. Until next time, God bless.